Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Camus, I want to ask you to describe the following three incidences, but I would just like for you to confirm them if you would, please. Specifically, the ones started in September of 2016. Was that incident involving the data retrieval tool, was that criminal in nature?
Yes, it was.
Okay, was that also, did the incident result in an indictment?
Yes, it did.
Okay, there's also one that was identified in November of 2016, and the third one was one on January 25th, 2016, by which a high number of taxpayer identification numbers were identified as being processed on the FAFSA that raised red flag. Did this result in a notification of a major incident to Congress?
No, it did not.
Okay. Mr. Garza, Ms. Garza, given the three separate incidences described by TIGDUB that predated the major incident that resulted in the DR tool not being taken offline on March the 3rd, the question is, why was the data retrieval tool not taken offline earlier? Microphone, please. And if you would, just could you pull that microphone a little closer and speak into it there? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Congressman, in regard to the September incident, we took immediate action by analyzing the data that we have, and we found that there was no evidence of a breach. The data was not lost. And we started working with the Department of Education to strengthen the authentication process for the data retrieval tool. I am not aware of the incident in November, and so I will have to go back and look at what the findings were for that.
Yeah, I don't understand the fact as far as saying, well, it wasn't breached, it wasn't breached. Yeah, I was just listening, thinking of my family back home. If I've got a security system, yet we have still people trying to break into that, at some point I'm going to be concerned, so, oh, well, nothing was taken, nobody was hurt, nothing was damaged. It doesn't make sense to me that there's not more action being taken here. Shouldn't the IRS be concerned about criminal misuse of the tool being sufficiently perked? Is that not something that's important?
Protecting the taxpayer data is our top priority. We were trying to balance the protection of the taxpayer data with the use of the tool, and that is why we reached out to the Department of Education to have discussions about what we could take. We saw this as action that we needed to take immediately, and we did take those actions to try to come up with a solution that would mitigate the risk.
Yeah, the key word is trying to come up with a solution. I'm not sure we've arrived at that. And according to Mr. Runcie's written testimony, after the October 2016 discovery that the DRT could potentially be vulnerable, the IRS increased monitoring of the tool for any suspicious activity. Could you describe what that increased monitoring looked like?
That is correct. We engaged with our TIGDA friends and asked them, as well as the new cyber analytics team that we have in place, to start looking for suspicious activity. And actually, it was because of that increased monitoring that we had done that we identified that there was suspicious activity occurring in January.
Yeah, there was an incident also in February this year, I believe. Was that discovered by accident?
We have mechanisms in place, multi-layer defense mechanisms. One of the mechanisms is a notification to the address of record to the individual whose data has been identified. That actually led us to identify that we had an issue. As we investigated that issue, we were able to find that, in fact, there was a fraud that had taken place, and we immediately shut down the application.
So for the record, you're saying that no, that it wasn't discovered by accident?
There was a notice that was generated to the taxpayer that had that taxpayer come in and notify us that there was something amiss.
To me, this is not only a question of taking responsibility for the IRS and department's web accessible services and data, but of understanding the cybersecurity risks these online services and applications face. And I certainly agree with the ranking member Cummings. These are young people's lives at stake, and as they're coming out, getting started, to be able to put them on a path where they're having to unravel this. I hope there's more of a sense of urgency to deal with this issue than what presently seems to be at the time. With that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.